Good morning, class! Our lesson for today is all about types of compounds based on their properties. Begin. Your time. Can you read the 3 points in our review? First point. Quantum mechanical model of an atom shows how the electrons surround the atom in increasing order. 2. The mnemonic device guide us in arranging the order of increasing energy of the orbitals. 3. Valence electrons are the electrons occupying the highest energy level. Our learning objectives today: the students will be able to, letter A, define the 2 different types of compounds, ionic and covalent. B. Identify the properties of ionic and covalent compounds. And C. Recognize different types of compounds, ionic or covalent, based on their properties such as melting point, hardness, polarity, and electrical and thermal conductivity. Activity 1. Can you guess the word and the picture? So, guess what substances are involved in the given pictures and the type of compounds it belongs to. So in the salt, what is this kind of compound? And what are the elements or the combination of elements to form a salt? In the water, what type of compound is water? And what are the combination of elements to form a water? And here is the answer key. A group activity. Next, here are the examples of ionic compounds in everyday life. In the first picture, you can see the sodium chloride, or commonly known as table salt. It is a combination of NaCl. Sodium bicarbonate, or also known as baking soda. It is a combination of NaHCO3. Sodium hydroxide, or also known as lye drain cleaner, is a combination of NaOH. Magnesium sulfate, commonly known as Epsom salt, is a combination of MgSO4. Sodium hypochlorite, or also known as bleach, is a combination of NaO and Cl. Now, here are the common covalent compounds. First example is nitrous oxide. It is a combination of N2 and O. Is laughing gas used as an anesthetic and to boost auto-engine power. Methane is a combination of CH4. Is a flammable gas used as fuel and in homes for domestic heating and cooking purposes. Sugars like sucrose is a combination of C12H22O11, and glucose is a combination of C6H12O6, are used in food and energy production. Hydrogen peroxide, or it is a combination of H2O2. It is used as a bleaching agent, emetic, induces vomiting, and an antiseptic. It cleans cuts and skin. Types of compounds based on their properties. Compounds means are defined as are formed after 2 or more atoms combine by either sharing or transferring of electrons. If a metallic atom combines with a non-metallic atom, an ionic compound is formed. If a non-metal combines with another non-metal, then a covalent compound is formed. So, compound sa Bisaya pa, kay magtapok-tapok ang Ma-form siya kung naay duha or daghan na atoms ang mag-combine, either mag-share sila og electrons sa ilang orbitals or naay mag-transfer na electrons. And there are two types of compounds: the ionic compound and the covalent compound. Kas unsay kalahian sa ionic compound and covalent compound? Sa ionic compound, we have here the ionic bonds. Ionic bonds form when a nonmetal and a metal exchange electrons. So remember, ang ionic compound is formed kung ang non-metal na elements o ang metal na elements mag-exchange of electrons. Makita ninyo sa inyong periodic table ang mga elements na nabilong sa non-metal o metal elements. Usually, the ionic compound are formed between a cation, which is usually a metal. So, mao ni siya ang maghatag o mag-share og electrons, and an anion. So, mao ni siya ang mudawat sa electron, which is usually a non-metal element. In contrast, atoms with the same electronegativity share electrons in covalent bonds because neither atom preferentially attracts or repels the shared electrons. So let's identify or distinguish the difference between the ionic compound and covalent compound based on their properties. Sa Bisaya pa, mahibal-an nato kung ionic compound or covalent compound siya base sa iyang properties na makita sa compound. So let's define the ionic compound and covalent compound. Description: in ionic compound, it is bond between metal and non-metal. So remember this, pag ang compound is a combination of metal elements and non-metal elements, it is automatically an example of ionic compound. The non-metal attracts the electron, so it's like the metal donates its electron to it. So, ay donation na nahitabo, nag-donate og electron sa metal to the non-metal para mas stable or maabot sa point na ma-achieve nila tong valence electron. Now, in covalent compound, it is a bond between two non-metals with similar electronegativities. Makabalo ka na covalent compound na siya if there are two non-metals na nag-transfer or nag-share og electrons. Atoms share electrons in their outer orbitals. So, ang ionic compounds class, mura siya og nag-transfer og electrons. Dili siya murag. Nag-transfer jud siya og electrons, nag-donate, naghatag siya og electrons sa iyang ka-bond na non-metal. So, the keyword is transfer. While the covalent compound is ang atoms nag-share og electrons sa outer orbital sa iya hapong ka-bond na non-metal. So, the keyword is share. Kung ionic compound, transfer of electrons. In the covalent compounds, there is sharing of electrons. Now, in the polarity, there are two types of polarity: the non-polar and polar. In the ionic compound, there is high polarity, and in covalent compound, there is low polarity. While in this shape, Ionic is no definite shape. Wala siyang exact shape or specific na shape. While the covalent compound has definite shape. So meron siyang shape, either rectangular, square, oblong. So meron siyang shape. The melting point. Melting point is from solid to liquid substance. So in the melting point, there's a high melting point in ionic compound, and in the covalent compound, there is a low melting point. In ionic compound, boiling point is very high. Baluman mo sa boiling point, diba? Kung magbukal-bukal. From liquid to the substances is from liquid to gas. So, ang boiling point sa ionic compound is high while the covalent compound is low. In state at room temperature, ionic is solid, the covalent is either liquid or gas. The type of elements, ionic is metal and non-metal, and the covalent is non-metals only. The bonding, the attraction between anions and cations. In covalent, there is sharing of pairs of electrons between atoms. In water solubility, there is a usually high in ionic and variable in covalent. In electrical conductivity, both has the ability to conduct, but ionic is good when it is molten or in solution, but in covalent there is a poor electrical conductivity.
The outer shell of many atoms, hydrogen being an exception, holds 8 electrons. Atoms that have an outer shell containing 8 electrons are considered chemically stable. We often say they fulfill what is called the octet rule. When atoms combine to form compounds, they can give up, accept, or share electrons in order to assemble an octet of electrons in their outer shells. A covalent bond is formed when atoms share electrons in order to satisfy the octet rule. For example, a carbon atom holds 4 electrons in its outer shell, but it would be much more stable with 8. To gain the additional 4 electrons, carbon can share with other atoms, and thereby have a completed outer shell. If 1 carbon and 4 hydrogen atoms come together and share their electrons, carbon achieves an octet of electrons. Note that each hydrogen in this compound achieves 2 electrons in its outer shell. This is the stable configuration of the first electron shell. An ionic bond forms when 2 atoms are held together by the attraction between opposite charges. The reaction between sodium and chlorine atoms is an example of how an ionic bond is formed. Since sodium has only 1 electron in its third shell, it has a tendency to give up that electron. Once it does, the remaining outer shell contains 8 electrons. This loss of an electron gives sodium a slightly positive charge. Chlorine, on the other hand, tends to gain an electron, since its outer shell already has 7. When chlorine gains an electron, it becomes slightly negative. The charged sodium and chlorine atoms are called ions. Ions of opposite charge attract each other and form ionic bonds. In this case, the attraction of sodium and chlorine form a molecule called sodium chloride, or table salt.
Activity 3. Uses of compounds. Listed below are some common household ionic and covalent bond substances. Supply the use or uses of each compounds. Can you give the uses or applications of the following substance? Number 1, salt. Number 2, alcohol. Number 3, cornstarch. Number 4, baking soda. Number 5, hydrogen peroxide, or commonly known as aqua oxinada. Activity 4. Watch and relate it. Watch a video clip of Jollibee commercial and connect it to the lesson about bonding and sharing of electrons and elements. So I will comment down below the link of the Jollibee commercial that you will watch. And after watching the video clip about the Jollibee commercial, here are the 3 questions that you will answer and reflect.
Hanggang kailan kaya ganito? Walang ngiti mga tao. Hanggang kailan kaya ganito? Sa loob lang si lola at lolo. Hanggang kailan kaya ganito? Di makalaro sa playground ko. Hanggang kailan kaya ganito? Laging kasama pamilya ko. Sana lagi ang playground ko, ang kwarto ni kuya. Lagi kong kalaro si lolo at si lola, para lagi kong kasama si mama at si papa. Hanggang kailan kaya ganito? Laging kasama pamilya ko. Para laging may kiss, laging may hug, laging may Jollibee. Sarap kasama ang pamilya. Sarap kasama ang pamilya.
Number 1 question is, how do you feel after watching the short video? Number 2, what makes family happy? Number 3, how will you apply what you've learned from the video to your family? Quiz time. So this is an individual quiz. Answer the given activity sheet. So here are the questions for formative assessment. Assignment time. The title of the activity is Know My Identity Through My Chemical Formula. Instructions. Study the list of compounds and its chemical formula below. Complete the table by identifying the correct chemical formula and classifying the type of compound for each item. Write your answer in a A4 size bond paper and submit tomorrow during my class. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you learned something. Keep safe and goodbye.